Welcome back into another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. As always, I'm your co-host Corey Kinnan alongside James Foster here. Today, we're going to do a little bit of NFL rookie chat. We're going to talk a lot about some NFL rookies here and their Week 1 performances, and we're going to see how these guys are doing. Again, this is an NFL draft podcast, so beyond year one, we're probably not following too much, at least on the podcast. But in year one, it's still worth talking about. We can kind of see where they stand based on where we thought they would stand in our draft projections and stuff like that. But James, are you ready to roll into this thing?
Yeah, I am. I think, especially since it's the first time we've seen these players in NFL action, and because the amount of topics that we really have to discuss from college football week 2 are so limited, I think this is a really good opportunity to kind of do a little bit of change up and talk some NFL ball.
I love it. I love it. All right, so let's start at the obvious position here, the quarterback position. And there's only one rookie quarterback starting, and that's Cam Ward. You are a Titans fan as well, so there's a little more vested interest from you in this regard as well. I watched the game. I thought he was okay. Like people are like, there's people on both ends of the spectrum. There are people saying he was brilliant and these dropped passes are what killed him, and there are others saying like, oh, he was absolutely awful. This was a terrible debut. I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Yes, I mean the Calvin Ridley thing. I felt like it was always going to end terribly in Tennessee. And he had a decent year last year, but I was never a fan of the Calvin Ridley signing in Tennessee. But he did not get any help from his receivers in this game, and that's pretty evident. But I thought Cam Ward still did some of the Cam Ward stuff from his college tape that made me a little hesitant as well. In terms of kind of bailing from some structure a little too early, in terms of trying to make like the wow highlight throws over kind of the easy boring stuff. Again, it's his first NFL start. We're not gonna bury a kid over that, but I thought it was probably somewhere in the middle. Like, yeah, this is about what I anticipated from a rookie debut. I don't know what your thoughts were though.
So what I would say is, if you grade all of his throws, it's a really good game. If you grade all of his dropbacks, it's like a solid to average game, you know?
Yeah.
And I think then when you think about the context of it's a rookie in his first start against a really good defense, JC Latham went out with an injury, and their replacement right tackle was struggling. I mean, if you look at the pass rush win rates for the Broncos edge rushers, it's pretty brutal pass protection there at the end. And yeah, on the last drive, he was throwing some lasers down the seams that are difficult catches because there's such high velocity. They're out in front of him, leading his receivers. There were a couple plays where it was like full extension, technically drops, but the receiver got rerouted kind of at the top of his stem after Cam Ward had released the ball. So he's throwing it maybe a foot ahead of where he's expecting the receiver to be. There's some stuff like that where it could go either way. I think overall, though, I feel pretty optimistic about Cam Ward, and extremely pessimistic about the Titans and like everything else about that offense, really.
Yeah, which is really disappointing because of the amount of assets they've invested in that offensive line as well, between first round picks and big money contracts. Again, you can't control injuries. Like you can't control injuries.
I'm not too worried. To me, I'm not too worried about the first round picks. Like Peter Skoronski is a really, really good guard, and I think JC Latham. Like I'm still pretty optimistic about him. Dan Moore looks awful. That looks like another whiff at left tackle, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I feel like signing free agent offensive tackles
No,
never works out because they always
kinda,
command big money to be average to mid players, and
it's kind of just it's the reality you live in when you miss on a generation of young talent like John Robinson did, and then you've got all this cap space. It's like, yeah, you may as well just spin it on these players, even though there's a good chance it's not going to work out.
Yeah, I'd be shocked. I would want to know the data of how many free agent signings make it through just the guaranteed money, like beyond just the guaranteed money in their contracts. Because I bet the number is probably below 50% of these.
Yeah, I bet it is. And I mean, I think even getting halfway through a contract as a free agent, depending on like what the guarantees are and everything, that can be viewed as a success.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Let's talk about some other risers here. Let's go into the trenches here. the Jets were impressive for a lot of reasons. One, I don't think I've ever seen Justin Fields play like that before at an NFL level.
Yeah.
Two, they're another team that's invested a lot of assets in their offensive line. And it sucks that Elijah Vera Tucker can't stay healthy because that would have been another element there as well. But Olu Fashanu, for one, looks amazing, which I've been a big Fashanu guy since he was 19 years old and a redshirt sophomore. But then Armand Membou, opposite him, makes his NFL debut against TJ Watt, who is perhaps one of the more whiny pass rushers in the NFL in terms of not getting the recognition he thinks he deserves. And Membou had himself a game in this one.
Yeah.
Highlight reel in this one.
It's kind of surprising, I guess, maybe to some people. It would be surprising how common it is for rookies and young players to have great games against TJ Watt. I see that happen a lot. I'll just say, like, I don't know. I think that if you can't hit somebody, if you don't have a dependable bull rush in the NFL, it's hard to really give somebody the welcome to the NFL moment, like in that sense, the way that like Myles Garrett can give you as a young player. Right. Not that there are bad rookies that he's dusted, but like when he goes up against first round picks, it can still be competitive like that. I thought Membou really had an excellent performance. The one caveat I would say is that he only had probably 3 to 4 true one-on-one pass blocking reps, and he handled business in those snaps, but was given help with a lot of chip blocks, not really, straight drop back protection. In the run game, though, he was phenomenal. There were probably 6 or 7 textbook backside cutoffs. Like you don't even have to have good vision to run wide zone in this offense, because it's like the cutback lane is always going to be open if you're running wide zone to the left with Membou. So he would be my NFL helmet sticker #1 for this week.
I love it. I'm a Browns fan, and as much as I think Mason Graham's going to be a really solid NFL player, looking at their tackle situation, and they have none under contract beyond 2025, there are some times where I'm like, and I said, I have this like in writing on Twitter, like even before the draft, I was like, I think they probably should have taken Membou. They probably should have drafted Membou at 5 after trading down there. But
I think I tweeted that right after the Browns picked. I was like, or it might have been after the Browns and Raiders picked. I was like, 2 teams that should have taken Membou.
Yeah, they should have. And again, that's nothing against Mason Graham, because again, I think Mason Graham has some really heavy hands and explosive. Or Genti, yeah, exactly. All right, I've got those. Oh, you want to talk about one more offensive guy? Let's talk about Will Campbell.
Yeah, let me quickly highlight Will Campbell, because he's gotten a lot of criticism, I think, at least from what I've seen on Twitter. And he had a couple rough moments in this game for sure. But when you watch his tape snap to snap, it's kind of like 2 different games where I think 80% of the game is outstanding. And I would probably be talking about him with the same glowing kind of reviews and tones that I'm talking about Armand Membou. He just had a rough couple drives in the third quarter, fourth quarter. There's one play where he got quote unquote bulldozed, as the announcer on CBS said, by Tyree Wilson. And it was really just kind of, he got pushed back in the pocket a couple of steps. It wasn't that bad of a loss. I just wanted to I've been outspoken that I think Armand Membou should have been the pick for the Patriots there, but wanted to highlight Will Campbell, that he had a really strong outing as well.
Yeah. Again, we're talking week 1. First NFL games, man. That's whack to have very strong takes one way or the other at this point. All right. There's actually one more offensive player that we could talk about any tight end, really. The rookie tight ends had a good week. Tyler Warren had a good week. I thought Colson Loveland on some limited reps had a good week. Harold Fannin had a good week. But the one I want to shout out is Jackson Hawes. Day 3 player, known as an ass kicker in the run game.
Yeah.
In his first NFL game, comes up with the biggest catch of the entire week to bring up that game tying touchdown there with Buffalo there. So Jackson Hawes gets a shout out here. Not only did he get drafted for just being an ass kicker in the run game, but he's catching big passes on the other end there too. Moving on to the defensive side of the
Well,
ball.
can I say something about Jackson Hawes?
Yeah, go for it.
Because, so I mean, I assume you watched his tape, and tell me if you had a different takeaway. But when I watched him, it was like, this is clearly the best run blocking tight end in this class, and I see nothing. I see no upside as a receiver. That was me, at least.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden he's a guy that can be at least a big body red zone threat, and he's just this elite run blocker, that's a steal for wherever they got him in the 5th round.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because like you see guys who are drafted to play a role in like the 3rd round who weren't like predominant pass catchers at the NFL, like Tip Ryman out of Illinois a couple years ago, like was drafted because he was really athletic, but because he was an ass kicker as a blocker. Yeah. So I think that's pretty astute as well. Yeah, defensively, I want to start with the Mike linebacker because I am a Browns fan still at heart. Yeah, Carson's Westinger in the middle of that defense, man. Just to have those kind of throwback linebackers are hard to find, right? Linebackers today are like 6'2", 225, 230, and they just want you to rotate and run, right? Carson's Westinger is 249 pounds, and he's playing the linebacker position the way that some of these throwback dudes play the linebacker position. For a rookie, he's wearing the green dot already, so he's already commanding that defense. For Jim Schwartz, who just like a Jim Schwartz linebacker has to be able to correct. Like, as Jim Schwartz is just telling his defensive linemen, pin your ears back and shoot gaps. Right. That puts the second level in a position where like they've got to adjust to whatever happens in front of them on the fly. They just play cleanup. And so like that's a big responsibility for a rookie. And he went out there and I mean, he looks like a star. Like he looks like he could be a Pro Bowler year 1 and looks like he could be an All-Pro by year 3. High-end athlete as well. Crazy story too, as a former walk-on to UCLA to becoming the 33rd overall pick in the draft. Yeah, man, like this guy's the real deal. There's not an element of his game that I think he lacks. And so like I think the sky's the limit here, and definitely a dominant week 1 showing against the Bengals there. Yeah. That Browns defense held the Bengals to 7 yards in the second half, by the way, and lost that game.
Yep. Carson Schlesinger was one of the first rookies that I watched because I saw he had a bunch of tackles. The craziest thing to me about him is that when I first watched him back at UCLA, I think he was listed at 225 pounds or something. And I'm viewing him as this super undersized, almost outlier kind of run and hit linebacker. And then he shows up to the combine and he's whatever, 245, playing at 250. So he just kind of transformed himself into a completely different player, but it didn't really lose any of that instincts or quick trigger or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I did think, like, I was watching that first drive of the game. I was like, man, he looks a little out of sorts here, but top end athleticism. And then I thought both him and Mason Graham on the fly as that game went on, just like they got better. They got used to the play speed, like pretty fast there. So
yeah,
same game there. Shamar Stewart. People were over the moon about it. I thought it was pretty good. I don't think I was over the moon about that performance. Again, he's always going to be a very dominant and linear through the chest power profile kind of guy. He does have more bend than a guy his size should have. But he was really stout, very stout against the run in that game. He ragdolled DeJuan Jones on a rep at the goal line as well, which, I mean, DeJuan Jones plays with no leverage because he's 6'9" and 380 pounds, but just an overly physical, overly strong player. And for a team that needs a future at edge because they won't commit big money to Trey Hendrickson beyond 1 year, I think they have to be pretty excited about what he did in week 1 too.
Yeah, it's, to me with Shamar Stewart, it's the straight line power, like you mentioned, but it's the ability to generate straight line power without a runway. He isn't some guy that you have to line up as a wide 9 and just have him run full speed through somebody's chest. He can be almost in a 4-eye or condensed in with a tight end. He can't really, he doesn't have a runway, and he's got to just right in front of somebody generate speed to power, and he can do it and get through somebody's chest. So I think that's the most impressive thing with him as a pass rusher. Still is going to have to, he is still a little bit unpolished as far as hand usage, but then in the run game, incredibly stout and incredibly disruptive.
So you wrote that piece for Wide Left about hand usage and how much a pass rush like profile really matters. What is
Yeah.
your overall take on like guys need to have a diverse set of ways to win versus they need one or two ways? They need a fastball and a changeup. Kind of where do you sit on that argument?
Right. So I think in general, the last thing you said is correct, where you really need to have a couple moves. It needs to be power, ideally, and then a speed move, and then a changeup. And it's much better. It's quality over quantity is the easiest way to say it. Like, be good at a couple moves over being average at a bunch of moves.
Yeah.
And then it's also the other key point is it's in the importance of technique is inversely related to size, strength, and athleticism. So Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, potentially Shamar Stewart can get away with not being elite technicians relative to other NFL pass rushers, whereas the bar for like Malcolm Kuntz is going to be a lot higher, where like he's every step's got to be pre-programmed. He's got to have the reaction time, the hand usage, the setup, everything's got to be really coordinated. Whereas Myles Garrett can kind of just overwhelm you.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think like I liked Leatu Latu a lot coming to UCLA a couple years ago. In hindsight, and this is again developing as a scout and developing as an evaluator, I would probably like him a lot less if I were to reevaluate his profile again, like in 2025 versus in 2023. Just because I don't see that power profile, and he's one of those guys that just has to have it pre-snap in order to get moving. So I'm right there with you on that as well. Heading to the secondary here. This is the last player on my list. We can touch on a few more if you want to here. Will Johnson. To me, I never got off the Will Johnson bus. Like people preseason last year had him as like the best overall player in the draft, and then by draft day, it was this guy doesn't have long speed and he's not very good. Oh, the pendulum swing on Will Johnson's draft profile was the biggest I think of anybody in the class last year from like what people thought about him. I'm glad I never got off the bus. And again, it's week one. We're not like overwhelmingly doing overreacting here, but like that's the Will Johnson I think people like in the summer of 2024 thought Will Johnson would be what we saw on Sunday for Arizona.
Yeah, I was never really on the Will Johnson bus the way that other people were. He was kind of like 13 to 14 for me heading into the season, and then probably 17 to 18 after the year. And then with the injury, I think I finished with him in the 20s maybe. But I was really impressed with his tape in week one. He had a pass breakup, like press man in the red zone down the right side of the field. And then just that he just annihilated somebody in the flat for his third pass break of the game. So outstanding performance for Will Johnson. And I love what the Cardinals have going on in their secondary. I love the way their defense is schemed. And it's like with Garrett Williams, they've just got guys that are really instinctive in zone coverage. I think it's this kind of secondary that's going to generate a lot of takeaways.
Yeah, I think so too. Their offense is a problem still. One, I think the quarterback, like it's now or never, and it's looking like never for that quarterback to make a leap, because I just haven't seen it from Kyler the way that you would hope to see it from Kyler, especially after bringing in Petzing, who runs a very structured offense that's going to scheme you up some looks to find, and it's not clicking there in Arizona offensively. So we'll see what the ceiling is for that offense. I mean, Murray's they've got too much money committed to him. It'll be Petzing who falls on the sword before Murray. But
I traded away Marvin Harrison Jr. in fantasy preseason solely because I don't trust Kyler Murray. And I used to be a Kyler Murray fan. Like a few years ago, I would have told you he was underrated.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. Anybody else that you want to touch on even briefly? Maybe somebody on the opposite end of the spectrum you had some high hopes for that in week one didn't do anything for you?
I think that probably I thought Tedero McMillan looked really good. Obviously, got a shout out to Emeka Egbuka. I'm looking down at my phone here. I've got like a spreadsheet with everybody that played. the Titans drafted Femi Oladejo, and he is looking bad in preseason.
Second round was always really gratuitous for Femi
Yeah.
Oladejo. For a converted linebacker in his first year rushing off the edge.
I did see that Ursary struggled, I know.
I wasn't a huge Ursary guy either. Again, I'm not here, like, we're not taking week 1 victory laps. That's not what we're trying to do here. But
no, yeah, this I'm not even. I'm not really even
that whole Houston offensive line, dude. That was.
I'm not trying to like confirm priors or anything. I'm just talking
Yeah.
about like what I saw when I watched the games.
That Houston strategy of I can understand trading away Larry Tunsil, right? There were some rumors that like maybe he wasn't the best guy in that locker room for the environment they were trying to cultivate. Plus, he wanted a new contract to become the highest paid left tackle. Like I can understand wanting to trade Laramie Tunsil, but their strategy to trade out of the first with Josh Simmons on the board, take Ursary in the second, and then they literally pieced together an offensive line using the island of misfit toys from other teams around the league, like cast-offs from, like, they traded a real asset for Ed Ingram. They signed Cam Robinson. Like, these guys have bounced around. Well, Ed Ingram hadn't, but like his time in Minnesota is well over. But like Cam Robinson had bounced around to 3 teams already before. Like, just a very bold strategy to build that offensive line in front of CJ Stroud there. So we'll see how.
Yeah, and I thought Laramie Tunsil played really well for the Commanders. Like he looks to be at 100% strength. So I don't know. I agree with you. That's a trade that doesn't make too much sense to me.
Yeah, for sure. They've got a nice little duo there with Connerly and him.
Yeah.
Larry Tunsil is the only offensive tackle I've seen just completely neutralize Myles Garrett.
In that playoff
the only
game.
One.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I was firmly on. I think that was kind of in the midst of one of the Myles Garrett, TJ Watt like debates. I was firmly on Myles Garrett's side for like defensive player of the year or something. And then, that game happened, and it was kind of like, he got erased. I don't know. Can't say anything to defend him on that one.
Yeah. All right, man. I feel like that's all I got.
That's all I got.
All right. Tomorrow we will. Again, it's a non-conference slate of games. So yeah, it'll be light talk on matchups to watch, but we'll combine like we did last week. We combined a draft or draft with a little bit of week 2 slate. So we'll probably do something similar, either a mailbag or a draft or draft on that. So yeah, that's probably what we're looking at for tomorrow. But that'll do it for the week then, and we'll get into some more film diving in week 3 as well. So, but until next time, this has been another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast.